This is a Shoosmiths podcast.
Hi, welcome to our fourth episode of Shoospeak HR. And this week we are delighted to be joined by Rachel Harvey, who is a legal director specialising in corporate and personal immigration and works within our employment team. So whenever we have any issues, we go to Rachel. So she'll generally assist clients with sponsorship licenses, Tier 2 applications, prevention of illegal working issues. And I know, and we will come on to this, that Rachel has inevitably been very busy advising organisations, large number of European nationals and options post-Brexit. And a fun fact about Rachel that I always like to tell people, just because I think it's cool, is that she works or does some work with Manchester City. And I just like that because of the football link.
Rachel's face on the video when you said fun fact, she was like, I have no idea where you're going with this.
I thought someone had given away my secret.
So welcome, Rachel. Our first question we always ask any guests, and I say that you're our first guest, but so we're really grateful to have you. But what's your favourite podcast that you listen to?
Well, apart from yours,
Good answer.
Yeah, I'm not a massive podcaster or whatever the word might be, but to be honest, I think if I do anything around like fashion, fitness, health, that kind of thing, obviously, you know, in a lockdown period, gyms are all closed. You've got to kind of keep motivated in some way. So anything around that kind of space, I think, is for me.
Nice. So moving to the more techie questions, which you're probably more comfortable with than asking about your favourite podcast. Free movement coming to an end on the 31st of December this year. So what happens to people who wish to live and work in the UK after that date?
Yeah, so I think obviously we've been working up to this 31st of December 2020 date for the last 4 years, really, since the announcement came that we were leaving the EU. Obviously, dates have changed now and again in terms of were we going to have a no deal. Yeah, I think, this will be the biggest change in the immigration rules in an absolute generation. So I think the most important thing is to say that anyone who wants to come and live and work in the UK, whether that'll be from the EU or elsewhere, will need to adhere to the new immigration rules. So if you want to come and live here as the spouse of an individual, whether you're from France or not, you will have to have a spouse visa. I think in terms of our clients, the most important thing is to know that you can't just recruit from Europe anymore or after the 31st of December as easily as you could before. So if you want to come and work in the UK, you would have to have a Tier 2 visa. So basically what the new immigration rules are doing is bringing Europe in line with the rest of the world. So it means that every single non-UK national who is not in the UK by the 31st of December will need to be sponsored in some way, whether that is a personal visa or whether or not it's a working visa.
All right. Thanks, Rachel. What about anyone from the EU who is already in the UK and working for businesses? What should our clients do in relation to those guys?
I think what's happened over the past few months is that kind of COVID's obviously taken over our lives. And I think people have kind of lost sight of Brexit and the end date. And I think that's a bit of a concern because whereby normally what we would have been doing is communicating to our EU national employees that they have to do something. I think COVID has obviously derailed that totally. So it's quite difficult because at the minute our clients don't have to go back and do retrospective right to work checks on their current EU nationals. But that's not to say that won't happen in the future. It might be that the government decide next June that all of our clients have to go back and check whether or not EU nationals have made applications for settled or pre-settled status. So what we've been advising, certainly over the past 4 years, is for our clients to audit their workforce to make sure they know in advance how many people may be affected by the end of, obviously, the end of free movement, which means that their current EU nationals will have had to either apply for settled status or pre-settled status by the 30th of June 2021. What is more of a concern is, obviously, this is all happening around the end of the year. People will be travelling for Christmas, New Year, and our concern is that part of their workforce may end up being stuck. One, because they haven't done an application, even though the deadline's not until the 30th of June, but two, because our own border officials aren't entirely sure of the rules. So we had an example of someone who was trying to come back through Brussels, where our border force are stationed in the Eurostar space, and essentially this lady already had settled status, and the border official said to her, well, do you realise that the UK is leaving the EU? And the lady said, well, yeah, but I've got my settled status. And she said, well, there's no stamp in your passport, and we've got no evidence of that. Well, there will never be a stamp in the passport because it's a purely digital status. The app works on the basis of scanning the chip in your passport, taking a selfie. The Home Office then compare it with HMRC records, and then they decide how long you've been resident in the UK. So, and then they issue your status via an email, and then they keep something behind, which our employers need to check when they're taking on new staff after the 31st of December. But I think what we've been saying to our clients is, after you've audited your workforce, get some really positive communications out there, just to say, look, if you've got it, let us know. You don't have to, but we'd like to help you if you've got any issues. Also, just to say, look, we're here to help if you do have any issues travelling around Christmas and New Year. We are looking at getting a dedicated helpline for our employer clients who may be contacted by their employees, because the first thing that I'd probably do if I had to prove that I'd been living and working in the UK before the 31st of December in front of a border official is get on the phone to Shoospeak HR and say, can you provide me with something that shows that I've been working for you? And so there may be those kind of calls that go into our clients, so they just need to be aware. Give these positive comms out. Some people will react quite well to them.
Is this you, Rachel, being an advocate of lockdown being extended longer so that people can't go away at Christmas? Is that what you're saying?
Well, if I wanted to have a night out on the 31st of December, maybe, but so I don't have to man the helpline the next day. But to be honest, I think it's a really valuable offering for our clients, and we've got various different things that we can offer. We've got our frequently asked questions document, which is really good because they're all the questions that we've been asked for the last 4 years. So, I'm an Irish national, do I have to apply? Answer is no, but you can if you want. I've got a Brazilian family member, they've got a certain permit, do they have to apply? Yes, they do. So we've got, that document is quite good to give to our clients, and then they can obviously use it.
So in terms of those FAQs, if anybody's interested in receiving a copy, they can drop us a line at the Shoosmith's email address, so Shoospeak HR at shoosmiths.co.uk, and we can get in touch and send you a copy of those. So Rachel, you've given us a really, really good summary of what our clients can be doing to prepare for, I suppose, the new kind of immigration landscape post the end of this year. A question that I kind of want to ask is, do you think that this is going to change the way that our clients actually recruit now going forwards into the new year and beyond?
Yeah, absolutely. In a couple of ways, really. The first way, I think, just to mention, is the way that right to work checks will change. So you may have an EU national who's been in the UK for a certain period of time before the 31st of December, who's applied for EU settled status, and they come and join you in January. Ordinarily, you would have checked their original passport or ID card. That is no longer something that you can do. You would have to check their digital status. And that's one of the things that we, again, in preparation for that, we've been telling our clients to make sure that your HR teams are totally aware that when they're going to check the status of an EU national who has lived in the UK, it will change. You have to enter the system via the employer's side of the route, and it's quite specific in how you have to do it. The individual will give you a share code, and they add that in. You add the share code in with their date of birth, and it actually pulls up an electronic profile of the individual, which basically says this person has the right to work until, if they've got pre-settled status until 2025, or this person has the continuous right to work. And they're the kind of, the intricacies of the new system that people may not have been aware about. The second thing that will change is obviously people who've been coming from the EU have been able to walk in, find a job with no issue. That is obviously changing massively. So what the new immigration rules propose is that there is a skilled worker route, and that will be under Tier 2. But what they've done is that currently under Tier 2, you can only be sponsored in a job which is at graduate level. So the Home Office have a list of jobs which they consider to be graduate level jobs. That is actually, they're actually reducing the skills level to A-level jobs, and they're adding a number of lower skilled jobs onto the shortage occupation list. So at this stage, the recommendation, we think, will be that bricklayers and welders will also be added to the current shortage occupation list, which means that you have a situation where what some of our construction clients, for example, may not have, may sponsor or may have a lot of EU workers who do those jobs, and they would never have been able to sponsor someone from India or Australia to do them, but now they can. So it's just really important to know that the skills level is being lowered. There is no requirement to advertise the job out anymore. Anyone who's listening who has got a license knows that traditionally we've had to advertise the job for 28 days, and it's a really arduous process, but that's going to go. And there's going to be no cap. At the minute, the amount of new hires that we can bring from the UK is 21,000 per year. Again, that's all going. There's going to be no cap. So it will actually open up a lot more jobs to a lot more of the world. One of the major things to obviously think about is the costs involved. So obviously you get your license, and it's not too expensive, £1,476 for 4 years. It's actually the cost of sponsoring the individual that you'll need to take into account. So one is obviously the salary. There are minimum salary thresholds. The second thing is that when you sponsor someone, you have to pay the government £1,000 per year of their visa to sponsor them. So that's an additional cost. So you could have if you're going to sponsor this person for 5 years, you're going to have a £5,000 cost. Now, we have heard for the last 2 years that they're thinking of doubling that to £2,000 a year, which could be really prohibitive for some of our smaller clients. And whether or not they'd be able to get these individuals from the UK kind of remains unclear at the minute.
That's great, thank you.
So I think a lot of, it's obviously going to be a lot of changes as you summarise, and it is really interesting to kind of get to grips with some of the intricacies of what it is that you're saying. But I think our employer clients will be particularly interested in where you think the particular challenges for them are going to be.
I think, again, I think it's a training exercise, to be honest. Training the teams on the new right to work checks. Also, just if you've got a sponsor license and haven't used it for however many years, it's likely that the person who set it up may have left. So we've had a client contact us today to say that one of their branches, they've got no access to the license. That could be a real issue if you needed to recruit somebody quickly, because at the minute it's taken 18 weeks for new access to be granted. I think as well, navigating the the immigration rules is awful. The system is not great either. For example, you can't leave a trailing space after a postcode or the whole thing just shuts down. Things like that. I think use of the SMS is obviously, that's a sponsorship management system, is really tricky. But again, you know, training can be available on all of that. I think it's just making sure that the clients know how compliant they have to be when they are sponsoring people. So things like so ordinarily you might not have known of a change of address of an EU migrant previously. If you don't know a change of address for an EU migrant going forward under tier 2, you could lose your license. And I think it's being compliant with your license, and it's also, if you don't have a license, getting it is not, you know, a massive issue, but there are a lot of documents that we've got to submit with the application. It's making sure we're getting it right first time, just because we anticipate, hopefully once the whole COVID thing is over, people will be applying in their droves. At the minute, they're taking about 4 to 6 weeks, which is fairly good, given that largely the Home Office in Sheffield kind of is pretty empty. So I think it's just a matter of trying to get it in sooner rather than later if you think you're going to be recruiting going forward.
And then I suppose, just to flip it on its head, what would your advice be to EU nationals that haven't already applied for their legal status in the UK?
Is obviously just apply. Again, people may be worried because they've only just arrived, they haven't got their national insurance number, which is, having done quite a lot of training and stuff over the past couple of months, one of the issues has been, oh, well, we've only just arrived, we haven't got a national insurance number. The national insurance number is obviously a good indicator of your residence, but it's not the only indicator. You know, our clients can recruit right up until the 31st of December and only have to check an individual's passport. That individual only has to prove they've been resident in the UK for 1 day prior to the 31st of December. And to do that, we've got their flight tickets, and we've got other documents that we can provide. So if you're worried about applying because you don't think you've got enough evidence yet, you know, I think they should let us know and we can give you the list of alternative evidence. I think another one of the blockers has been is the fact that people are worried about the criminal aspects. So there obviously is a question about criminal offences, and that question might put, you know, a lot of people off applying, EU nationals. So they might have a driving without insurance offence or something like that. So they'll think, oh my God, I'm not going to apply because I'm worried that I'll get removed from the UK, deported or whatever. Obviously, they have changed the criminality assessments to bring it in line with the rest of the world. So largely it's only, you know, persistent offenders and those who've got a prison sentence of 1 year or more. So if you do have minor driving offences, or, you know, I don't know, maybe an ABH that, or, you know, something minor that didn't involve any kind of prison sentence, just apply. You and must disclose it is the most important thing, because people not disclosing it can just be worse than the conviction itself.
Thank you, Rachel. That's been, well, enlightening for me, and I'm sure enlightening for our listeners. And before we go, what we tend to try and do on Shoospeak HR is to give our listening millions 3 top takeaway tips. And I know you've spoken a lot there and there's a lot to digest, but could you possibly look to identify 3 tips to take away from today's session?
Yeah, so I think audit your workforce and make sure how much exposure you've got to your current EU nationals, you know, positive communications with them. Also, get trained up on the new immigration rules, and the new right to work checks will come in. And you know, it's just apply for your license if you need one, if you think you're going to need one, because as the people that will, as more companies apply, the backlog will become longer, especially if COVID continues in the way it has been. So apply sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Rachel. That's been fantastic. I'm sure we're going to ask for you to come again and see us, so I hope we haven't put you off too much. But...
Not at all. I'll come back in December at the end of January and let you know if I've been called on the hotline.
And if anybody wants any inquiries or to get put in touch with Rachel, then again feel free to drop us an email, shoospeakhr@shoosmiths.co.uk, and we will be very happy to put you in touch. Thanks all. Bye bye.
Cheers, Rachel.
Bye.